Enough, the newly crowned Miss Universe had actually
Back
posted
up
photos of
here.
herself on Facebook participating in the mass anti-government protests back in 2018. Protests that, if you don't remember, were violently repressed, and human rights officials say that 355 people were killed by government forces. With the government also outlawing or closing more than 3,000 civic groups.
She hot though. Look at her.
Expelling of voting, stripping
She's so hot. Why do you care?
confiscating their assets. So then, when the regime's opponents discovered that the Miss Universe winner was apparently on their side, they took the opportunity to celebrate in the streets, waving with blue and white national flags rather than the regime's red and black band. So now the government there has taken quick steps to make sure this never happens again by going after the pageant's director. Them alleging that she rigged the contest so that an anti-government beauty queen would win the pageant as part of a plot.
Damn, look at her. Shut the fuck up.
The director, her husband, and her son are now facing charges.
She's just hot as fuck. That's why she wasn't fucking rigged for shit. Shut the fuck up.
A few days ago. And as for Miss Nicaragua, we'll see if anything happens to her, because while she doesn't appear to be a particularly political figure, it's not like she used her platform at the pageant.
God's sakes, you have eyes? Are you a man?
Authoritarians infamously do not like anyone that stands against them at any time. So
what's up with the settings?
And then this scandal coming out of Florida about one of its most prominent and influential power couples is at the very least a case of massive hypocrisy, and at most, which is what's being alleged here, a crime. And at the center of all this, you have Christian Ziegler, who is the chair of the state's Republican Party, and his wife, Bridget, who's an elected member of the Sarasota County School Board and a founder of the right-wing national group Moms for Liberty, right, which you've maybe seen pop up in the news because they work to elect school board members nationally who oppose curriculum about LGBTQ+ rights, gender and sexuality, race and discrimination, and all of that, on top of fighting for banning books on those topics. In fact, it's been reported that Bridget played a huge role in designing and enacting Florida's infamous Don't Say Gay law. And so because of all that, they have quickly risen to become major figures in the conservative movement who are widely recognized for their pro-family Christian values. However, a lot of that's changing right now after a heavily redacted report from the Sarasota police revealed that Christian's currently under an active criminal investigation for a rape allegation by a woman who he and his wife had a three-way sexual encounter with. And since the initial report was made public, media outlets have since obtained a search warrant affidavit that provides many more details. Like both Bridget and the woman confirmed to police that they had a three-way sexual encounter with Christian over a year before the alleged assault, which took place on October 2nd. The document also saying the woman had agreed to have another sexual encounter with Ziegler and his wife that day, but she changed her mind and canceled after she learned that Bridget wouldn't make it. They're telling Christian in a message, "Sorry, I was mostly in for her." But according to the affidavit, the woman told police that he still showed up at her apartment uninvited and raped her. And she reported the alleged rape to police 2 days later and got a rape kit done at a local hospital. The affidavit also detailed messages between the woman and Ziegler after the incident, including one where she told him she wasn't okay with what happened, but he repeatedly told her she was his friend and tried to change the topic. Also there, in recorded phone calls between the two, Ziegler denied that he had sexually assaulted her. Also, some outlets obtained a reporting of the 911 call 2 days after the alleged assault, where a friend of the woman asked emergency responders to check on her apartment, telling police that the woman hadn't shown up to work for 2 days, and when she called, she sounded drunk and told her friend that she had been raped and was scared to leave her house. Now, with all this, Christian Ziegler, for his part, told police that he and the woman had sex, but saying that it was consensual, and he actually recorded it on video and uploaded it to Google Drive. Although there, police said in the affidavit that they weren't able to locate the video and have served Google with a search warrant. Also, a lawyer for the Florida GOP had denying the allegations in a statement to reporters and added, "We are confident that once the police investigation is concluded, that no charges will be filed and Mr. Ziegler will be completely exonerated." But even with that, the situation has drawn a ton of backlash, even from Republicans in the state, including from DeSantis himself, who actually called for the party chair to step down and said, "I don't see how he can continue with that investigation ongoing given the gravity of those situations, and so I think he should step aside." And with that, he also went on to say he knows the couple well and he hopes the allegations are false, but still adding, "He's innocent till proven guilty, but we just can't have a party chair that is under that type of scrutiny." It was also echoed by other Republican leaders who also accused the Zieglers of going against Christian conservative values.
Going to check out over there.
With Republican State Representative Spencer Roach telling reporters they've held themselves out to be paragons of the Christian conservative family values, a prototype. And I think there's a very heavy sense of betrayal.
You're not coming with me?
With them also adding that this has plunged the Florida GOP into absolute chaos, saying, "I would describe this as just an absolute body blow for the Republican Party. Everyone that I've talked to about this is in an absolute tailspin." Right? And again, because what we're talking about is one situation, but there are two things that are playing out. Like, there's a very serious criminal accusation, and then there's just the general hypocrisy. So that's why you've seen a lot of people specifically taking Bridget Ziegler, calling her a hypocrite because she so fervently fought against LGBTQ+ rights, but apparently not for herself. People saying things to her like, "We are very sorry that our gay marriage brings disrespect on your sacred institution of bisexual swinging open marriage. And I'm so glad that the Florida Board of Education has approved for Florida school libraries mommy and daddy and their very special friend." But with all that said, understand this is still developing. Now, as of reporting, Christian Ziegler has refused to resign, saying in an email to members of the Florida Republican Party this weekend, "We have a country to save, and I am not going to let false allegations of a crime put that mission on the bench as I wait for this process to wrap up." Also claiming that he's just being targeted by liberal activists and that his wife is behind me 150%. But as far as how this is going to play out both in legal court and the court of public opinion, we'll have to wait and see. But that is going to be the end of your daily dive into the news today. Don't worry though, for more news you need to know, I got it right here. You can click or tap, or I got links in the description. And of course, as always, my name's Philip Franco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.
This video has been dubbed and subtitled into several languages. On most devices, you can call up YouTube settings and switch between them. And if you do, you'll find that outside the original language, English, the words in the subtitles and dubbing often don't match, which happens a lot, mostly in professional TV shows, and it can be frustrating for those of us who like to listen, but also use sub. The short reason why is subtitles and dubbing are usually done by different teams of people. But to answer why that happens, I need to take you on a journey that's going to involve geese, a roller coaster, and this advert.
This video is sponsored by NordVPN.
That's not a joke. This video is actually sponsored by NordVPN, who have been very useful as I've been travelling around. Visit nordvpn.com/TomScott to find the best deal they're offering at the point. Now, in most of the languages that advert was translated into, the subtitles and dubbing pretty much match. In French, Spanish and Portuguese, the word order is roughly the same as in English, and it's a simple translation. But in the most obvious Hindi translation, the company name sits in the middle of the sentence. And standard practice for modern professional dubbing is to match lip movements as closely as possible. Now, there is a way to rephrase the sentence in Hindi so that the company name sits at the end. The dubbing team chose that option, and the lip movements pretty much matched. But the subtitling team didn't see any reason to do that, and so the lines are different. In Japanese, which has the same problem, the dubbing team instead found a translation where the lip movements look close enough. But why don't they just take the dubbing script and then turn it into subtitles? Why translate everything twice? Well, subtitles have their own limitations. I gave the translation teams for this video some deliberately difficult examples. A few years ago, I made a video on YouTube's copyright systems, and it included this sidebar about a song that I don't. Maroon 5's Memories is an infuriating composition that uses the start of the melody of Karen and D but never resolves it, which means that it has the same stuck-in-your-head effect as the jingle from Alfred Best of the Demolished Man, and I hate it. The modern approach to subtitling in most languages is that reading is faster than talking, and that even for fast talking like that, you put every word on screen. The viewer can always pause. But that wasn't always the case. If you watch anything in English that was subtitled more than 10 or 15 years ago, like reruns on television or movies on DVD, you'll find the subtitles often summarise what's said. Style guides used to emphasise the skill in careful and sensitive subtitle editing, because they thought it was important that everyone was read, even if they were a slow reader, because you couldn't easily pause and go back. Besides, why would someone who can hear watch video with subtitles? It's not like we'd all end up with tiny televisions in our pockets, or sound mixing changes would mean that dialogue was going to be suddenly difficult to hear. In the original English version of that Maroon 5 rant I just did, I made a reference to The Demolished Man by Alfred Best, which isn't that well known even in English. So for Japanese viewers who had probably never heard of it, the local subtitle translator decided to remove the reference entirely and get the same meaning across with fewer characters. Opinions can differ, but I think that's a pretty solid decision. If they'd just taken the breathless, high-speed performance of the Japanese voice actor, then it would have been a worse experience for subtitles. And well done to the voice actor, by the way. That cannot have been easy. And this is just to translate one person performing a script. Imagine if it was a reality show with 6 people shouting and talking and stumbling the words and interrupting each other.
Thank you for following Petriad.
Thank you for following Petriad. Petriad.
In this case, for some Japanese viewers, that's one of the other big challenges with translation. How much do you translate the words versus translating the meaning? Here's another really
difficult I'm leaving the high ground. I ain't.
Anyone want to buy some dolphins?
I ain't leaving the high ground.
They're going cheap. The English version of that joke is pretty much impossible to translate. It relies not just on a pun, but on knowledge of colloquial English. You have to know that.
Congratulations.
You have to know that.
Can you shoot that zipline thing over there, sir?
Cheap, cheap, cheap. And
or up there? Can you make a zipline up to that point?
Is slang for on sale at a good price.
Can we go over there, or is that not allowed?
I'd love seeing the response.
Get on top of that building.
A couple of folks translated it.
We can't get up that building on top of that?
Sorry. But I do want to highlight a couple of them. The Portuguese subtitle and dubbing teams
on top of that,
the same joke, and so did the Spanish subtitler. Ganso in both languages means goose, and cansado means tired, so they combined them into the word gansado, and now I'm asking if anyone wants the goblins because I'm goose/tired of them? Brilliant. And both the French and Spanish dubbing teams came up with their own puns based on their language's words for bird noises, because, yes, the sounds that animals are said to make differ in each language. And I love this! This is translating meaning and intent, not just words. In case you're wondering, I did try several AI translation tools, as well as just asking a large language model to translate this stuff. And as of right now, as of 2023, capturing that nuance, that meaning, that performance, definitely still requires humans. At least for the goose clip, the translators didn't have to match my lips, but they did have to match the goose's honk, because they talked over it. So they had to go to another bit of the video that you didn't see, copy and paste the background noise and a different goose honk from there, and synchronize them up. Someone had to lip sync a goose. they don't have lips. Don't think they have lips. All of which comes together for this example. Last year, I made a video where I tried to get over my phobia of roller coasters. And spoiler, I did. And just after my terror changed to joy on a ride called Nemesis, I shouted this. The original English is habit. How on earth do you translate habit? It's got no literal meaning, and more than that, it's kind of obscure slang. Different people in different parts of Britain might use it for different things, and it's almost impossible to Google. In my context, it's a cry of excitement, triumph, adrenaline, encouragement, success. It's the sort of thing that you might yell after your team scored a goal, or to cheer on your friend after successfully down 2 pints of lager back to back. It feels very drunken lad night out. I did pass a note with all that context onto the translators, but for many productions, they won't be working with notes. They'll only have the original show, maybe the script. So here is that cry in all the video's languages. Subtitling teams have their choice of any word or phrase, but they have to keep the words on the screen. Dubbing teams can get their voice actors to emote in the studio as much as possible, but the lip movements have to match. That's why subtitles and dubbing differ. And if you want a perfect example of that, this advert has also been translated into 5 languages, and no matter which one you speak, you can push NordVPN's magic Quick Connect button, and your phone and computer can pretend they're in any one of around 60 countries, from Albania to Vietnam. So if you're traveling and want websites to stop automatically translating for you, it's easy. Or if you want to watch stuff from another country, but it's blocked where you are, you can. Just check the streaming service's terms and conditions first. NordVPN works on Windows, Linux, Mac, iOS, and Android up to 6 devices at the same time, and there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So, if you're not sure, try it anyway. When I first used it, I thought I'd only use it occasionally, but over the last year, it really has come in handy.
Oh, he can zip line, that's right.
I keep endorsing NordVPN because it keeps being a thing. You can go to nordvpn.com/TomScott or scan the QR code for the best deal they're offering right now, even if you're watching this.
We don't need it, do we? Fuck no.
So Disco Cobra comes in. Can we all give him a nice F in chat for the very generous donation? It's very kind of you, sir. I love the color too. That's very cool. So my cousin just launched a 4070 Ti to his rig. Seems to still be having frame rate issues. Probably a CPU bottleneck. He plays mostly BMG, Drive, and Sons of the Forest. Getting 60 frames per second. Oh my good lord.
Using grapple.
Buy Windows 10 Professional for $15. Activate instantly online with Microsoft and keep it forever. Don't pay full price. Get the best deal from our sponsor, URCD Keys, using our link in the video description below. Full details on how this amazing deal works at the end of the video. At the very least, you should drop a 5700X in there. A 5700X is, at best, 20% faster than a 3700X. But it's a single This is one of those distinctions that doesn't always show up on pure benchmarks. Usability of a machine is different. Thanks, guys, for all the F's in chat. Y'all are awesome. Straight frame benchmarks don't show up the feeling of using a computer. The 3700X Zen 2 is 2 4-core CCUs with an Infinity Fabric interlink. It has 32 megabytes of L3 cache, but that is split 16 and 16 between the two, and if Core 7 wants to use the first 16 megs of L3 cache, it has to go across the Infinity Fabric, which is a latency delay, through the chip into the cache. Likewise, if Core 2 needs to use some of the cache over here, it has to go through that link, and then both of them talk to the I/O DAC. You really have 2 4-core chips that are simply glued together. The 5700X Zen 3 is a single 8-core CCD. There is no interconnect. All 32 megabytes of L3 cache on the chip is universally available at full speed and low latency to all 8 cores on the chip. In strict benchmarks where the compute is just run, that doesn't always show up. But in the real world, that change made a difference. So if you're getting poor 1% lows and frame rate stutters, going from 2 4-core CCDs on a 3700X to a single 8-core can clean up the performance more than just average frame rate improvement. Now, a 4070 Ti is a beast of a video card. Even with a 5700X, at 1440p, you might still get some CPU bottlenecks. That's a good video card. But you'll get fewer. Now, you could go with a 5800X 3D, but the problem is not like the price at the moment. That's a lot of money. If you're going to spend $300 on a CPU, just go with 7800X 3D. I mean, I know you need a motherboard, but he has an $800 video card. 7800X 3D would not be crazy for him. But if he wants to just clean things up and fix up his machine, he absolutely should upgrade it. And it's also why I'm not promoting the Ryzen 9 5900X. Now that's actually on sale on Newegg right now on Black Friday. It's like $290. I wouldn't spend $290 on AM4. If you're gonna spend $300, go to AM5.
One moment, gotta use a Phoenix kit.
I would almost be tempted to, here's the thing. If you've got 4070 Ti money for your video card, the cheap option is to replace your 3700X with a 5700X.
More friends are coming to kill us. There's another squad. Firing. One moment, gotta use
if you want better than that, here, let me come over here to. I really want the 5800X 3D. Yeah, it's 220. That doesn't make any sense.
Care package over there.
This
ready to fly
makes no sense. This is entirely too much money.
One moment,
because $40 more buys you a 70. Yes, I know you need a motherboard and RAM and it's a change, but what's a 5900X? Yeah, I just can't get there. It would have been done already. The Ryzen 9 5900X is $290. I think we're sort of past that. By the way, if you ever wonder why I tell you, buy the best chip on the platform even if it seems silly at the time, check out what 5950X is going for. The 5900X will not retain its value. The Ryzen 9 5950X is still being sold for $493. Those will hold their value. It's the best chip.
One's broke.
In 4 halves. I would tell your friends, and this is linked down in the video description below, and there is a $150 motherboard that you could put this on if you want to down there. So you're looking at $500, which he may not be wanting to do. It's much cheaper to put a 5700X on. But $369 is a $10 promo code. That would be going from a 3700X to a 7800X3D would be a transformative experience. That would be much more of a wow upgrade.
I am taking fire, friends.
See what all you guys think about that.
Contact with enemy.
Looking for a Windows 10 or 11 product key, but you don't want to spend $100 to $200 for it? Our sponsor, URCD Keys, provides discounted Windows keys at amazing prices. $15 for Windows 10 Professional, $21 for Windows 11 Professional, and just $60 for Microsoft Office 2021 Professional Plus. These product keys are the real deal. They activate directly with Microsoft Online, link to your Microsoft account, and they work forever. For Windows, you simply go to Settings, Update and Security, Activation, click Change Product Key, paste the key provided by URCD Keys, and in seconds, you're activated with Microsoft. For Office, go to setup.office.com, sign in with a Microsoft account, paste the product key provided by URCD Keys, and then download Office 2021 Pro Plus directly from Microsoft. Remember to use the discount code TD20 to take 25% off the already deeply discounted prices and support our channel at the same time. We have been using product keys from URCD Keys for almost 5 years now without any issues and encourage you to do so as well. It's a CyberPower 2020 rig I got when the 30 series was launching. It's got some older stuff. I don't know if he can afford a whole new rig. He did say it runs games way smoother though from the 2070 Super. Well, yeah, his video card is a massive upgrade. If he cannot afford, well, he doesn't have to replace the whole rig. If it's a 2020, Disco, if it's a 2020 build, then he probably doesn't need a whole new rig. His power supply, his case, his cooler. He has a 3700X. His cooler's probably fine, although he might need an adapter bracket. He'd be looking at $500 for a motherboard and a CPU, and a minimum of $80 for the RAM if he goes 32. I vote 64, but you know, he can do what he wants. So he's looking at $600, maybe $650.
Pay attention. You might learn a thing or two.
I'm gonna make a poll in chat. See what you guys think. If he doesn't have the budget, he doesn't have the budget. $170 will give him a decent, not mind-blowing, but a decent improvement. $170 is the 5700X. It's linked in the video description below. He can sell his 3700X for about 100, maybe 110. It's looking at a $60 upgrade. What
This might be a good place to land.
upgrade should
Around. We drop him.
Disco's friend do? 5700X for 170 and be happy with it. 7800X 3D for 650 and go big. Something else. It very, very much just depends.
What? I'm Wraith? What the fuck?
And how much he wants to mess with it. Because
I don't want to be Wraith. I want to be Lifeline.
But he did buy a pretty expensive video card.
Should have seen that coming. Picked up some materials.
No precursor. It's $320. This precursor says get the 5800 X3D. If it were $220, sure. You do not spend $320 for a 5800 X3D in November of 2022. When a 7800 X3D, and yeah, I know you need a motherboard and RAM, but the difference is worth it. The difference is worth it. Sell the GPU.
There's two under me. They're under me.
Watch yourself. There's another squad attacking. 1 second.
We also wanted to give you an update on.
Oh fuck! I'm not fucking Lifeline. What is this bullshit?
Of Jerusalem and the fact of you know, the quote unquote only democracy in the region. let's put this up on the screen. This is disturbing. I just want you guys to know. So what you see here is, and I'm going to give you the backstory in a moment, but this is in Jerusalem. You see this man kneeling on the ground, hands up. He's saying in Hebrew, please don't shoot me, please don't shoot me. And he is effectively summarily executed there and allowed to bleed out from his injuries, and he dies. Now, let me tell you, put this up on the screen. This is Demi Reader, who is an Israeli journalist, actually one of the co-founders of that magazine 972 that I just referenced. So here's the backstory. In 2016, an Israeli soldier executed a wounded Palestinian militant point blank on camera. He became somewhat of a hero to the far right. And the execution of wounded suspects briefly became a wedge issue in Israeli society. Briefly because it's been long accepted, at least since the Second Intifada, that even if someone used a butter knife to attack soldiers, they might also have a suicide vest and therefore need to be finished off, just in case. Which he says makes no sense to me, and I don't know if it ever happened, but okay. Fast forward to 2023. Major cheerleader of that Israeli soldier and a convicted terrorist supporter himself, Itamar Ben-Gvir, is police minister. After October 7th, he randomly begins handing out weapons to civilians, ostensibly because you need a good guy with a gun, etc. Well, this past Friday, and this gets to the video that we just watched, 2 Hamas paramilitaries shot up a bus stop in Jerusalem, killed 3 people, including a pregnant teacher. The first guy to engage them is a local lawyer and former policeman, I should add, Duran Castleman, civilian who happens to be armed, a good guy with a gun. He kills both gunmen, stops the attack before more people could be killed. Then, and this is the part that you guys just watched, IDF soldiers arrive. Castleman, the hero, realizes that he might be mistaken for one of the attackers, so he drops his handgun, he kneels on the road. This is what you saw in that video. He lifts his t-shirt to show he's got no suicide vest on. He asks them in perfect Hebrew not to shoot, explaining who he is. One of the soldiers, a settler with a self-confessed extremist background, shoots him anyway in the abdomen on camera and walks off. So that man that you just saw killed on camera, executed on camera with his hands up, that was an Israeli hero who had stopped these gunmen who were massacring people, these Hamas gunmen who were massacring people. When more security arrived, they assumed Castleman was a gunman, so they let him bleed out. He bleeds to death. The settler soldier who executed him gives smug interviews, gets much kudos from other far-right figures. They later erased those tweets. The army and police said they won't be investigating before U-turning under pressure. Netanyahu, you ready for this one? He chimes in and says, I support the policy of handing out weapons. Sometimes there's a price to pay, but c'est la vie. C'est la vie. That's what he said in Arabic. So, in Hebrew. So this man, Duran Castleman, true hero, who was there, who stopped these Hamas militants, was executed by Israeli soldiers, even as he was there kneeling in the street. This is the reality of the quote-unquote only democracy.
One's coming up.
Well, I mean, I guess it happened in the West Bank, right? Look, it happened in Jerusalem. The problem is that with this entire thing is it actually demonstrates all of the worst pressures that are on Netanyahu, because this showed you the settler who was provided with weapons under the Ben-Gvir policy. Then it also showed you that Netanyahu himself has a very hard time grappling with this. He didn't even call the family until yesterday.
Yeah.
The Israeli military.
After there was a massive public reaction.
Right. So after there was a huge public reaction saying, hey, how can you do this? He put out a tweet and said, Yuval Castleman is the hero of Israel. He saved many lives. Today I spoke with his father. This is a wonderful family. The entire nation mourns with them. Now, in terms of the investigation to itself, they don't know which way that they're supposed to go, because they initially were not supposed to have the police or the military even investigate this person, the settler, whether he should have had weapons or not, and what punishment this person will suffer. You know, the original case he talks about, I remember covering a lot of that at the time, because if anyone's seen the video, it's crazy. Because basically, there's a wounded guy on the ground, and he's just walking around, and despite no orders or any of that, he just shoots him in the head. There's no other way to describe it. I watched the video a dozen times. Reported on it a lot at the time, because there was a big controversy around putting him through court-martial and then his eventual trial. Because in old Israel, it was an open-shut case. It's like, there's no way this is going to happen. But he became a genuine hero, and to the point where he, even by a decent segment of society, is celebrated today for what happened to him, and they're seen as a miscarriage of justice. The overall prosecution, the initial court-martial, it split the IDF apart, and more importantly, it split Israeli society apart. So that is what is downstream of a lot of the settler providing them guns, and then also when it comes to this, I think it's a big rift between secular society, settler society, and then the way that people inside Israel are looking at this. Because, as I've explained here before, you know, a huge portion of the Israeli population didn't even serve in the military. This is a retired policeman, had a gun on hand, did the heroic thing at the time. He literally kills. I mean, he's a trained police officer, and then does everything you're supposed to do. He's like, oh, I'm in a chaotic situation, drop the gun, put the hands up, show that I don't have a vest on, because he knows. He's like, well, you know, a lot of them will shoot if they think you have a vest. You did everything they were supposed to do. Then he gets executed. So that's a tragedy, and the person obviously involved should be, at the very least, you know, fired from the job, removed from service, not celebrated. The fact, though, that it took days for the prime minister to have to respond to this, I think demonstrates to everyone very clearly what the pressures inside of Israel are on Netanyahu, not from the general population, from inside the coalition himself. Because inside that coalition, they don't want to talk about this at all. It's tragedy, c'est la vie, etc. They want to move past it. It shows you who he's really, really working for. And I think that is the single, you know, broken record, single biggest problem in the prosecution of this war, is that you have the overall leader of the country with some of the worst pressures on him from a fringe element of society, which is not how you should be wanting to conduct a, you know, a defensive operation, a war, which is supposed to bring the entire country together. It's a nightmare from a political, strategic perspective. Inside Israeli society, I think something will break eventually. I really do.
You know, one thing I want to say related to this, because I talked about, you know, the poll numbers of it's like 58% of Israeli society thinks the IDF hasn't been brutal enough. Only 1.8% is like, yeah, maybe they've gone too far. So you have a majority who want even more viciousness, even more brutality. And I just want to make it really clear, like, I don't think that Jewish Israelis are different than any other people on the planet. But I do think that when you have, for so many decades, you've had this brutal military occupation of the West Bank, and now you've had this brutal blockade of Gaza, and, you know, Israel is doing very well as a society, relatively wealthy society, people doing well, living good lives, all of that. And just over these borders, you know, in effectively the same territory that at this point is controlled by Israel, you have people who are living in these desperate conditions. I think that does something to a society. Again, I don't think that, you know, people are different in Palestine versus Israel versus here versus anywhere else in the world. But when you live in that kind of a society, you know, the level of dehumanization that you have to sort of internalize to justify this treatment of millions of people right across the border, right there, you know, that you could go and see with your own eyes, I do think it does something to a society. And so, you know, that's why, you know, someone who, if this had been a Palestinian who was unarmed and posing no threat to anyone and who was executed in the street, that settler who killed him would still be a hero. You know, they would still be bragging about it. It still would be broadly supported. And, you know, the number of Palestinians who are, you know, rounded up and arrested and no charges filed and in this indefinite detention, this is not really controversial within Israeli society. So I think that's why the governments have for a long time now been increasingly right-wing, where they're very clear they don't want a two-state solution. You know, they're doing everything they can to block the possibility of two-state solution, or openly talking about that. I think that's what happens over time when you have these conditions that are imposed on a population for so long.
I will take a turn at trying to explain it, which is, and if you've ever been there, it's understandable, so just bear with me. Most of the people, the generation of today, the people who are serving the IDF, grandfather or grandparents, great-grandparents, likely liquidated in the Holocaust or survived. We're lucky enough to survive. You were beaten into you from day one. State of Israel exists, so that will never happen again. You have mandatory military service going back to basically the founding of the country. Your fathers and or grandfathers fought in 1967 and in the Yom Kippur War, where Israeli annihilation was absolutely on the table. So you haven't had two lessons in the span of 100 years, where you have learned, if we don't fight back with everything that we possibly have, they will wipe us off the face of the earth. And on top of that, you now live with 20 years of war with Hamas. And look, I'm not saying that Hamas has to suffer more, obviously, in terms of casualties, but it's no picnic living in a country where you've got rockets coming down. You had to have Iron Dome, and everybody knows somebody who was affected either in that war. At the same time, too, in modern society and like what it's like to live in Israel, you can't even go inside of a shopping mall without getting wanded for a suicide vest, because they had, I think, over 1,000 attacks that happened inside of Israel, suicide bombing style attacks, blowing up buses, public infrastructure, all that type of thing, before they eventually built the wall with Gaza. So, that's actually not that hard to understand why you get to a mindset of where that's predominant inside of your society. And the total separation seems necessary because it's an us or them mentality. And let's be real too. A lot of the Palestinians, they would kill them if they had the chance and if they had the means. And they've shown that throughout decades now of bordering both Gaza and Hamas. I understand it completely. I'm not saying I like it or I'm even justifying it, but it's a different set of circumstances than we live here in the West, just completely and utterly different. And it's one of those where, when you're saying it, Crystal, I think the dehumanization, all of that is just inherent to what it's like to live in an active war zone and what it's like to also have a generation at war today, your father's generation at war, or grandfather, and to have the knowledge that probably 90% of your descendant or ancestors were liquidated by the Nazis. That's just a deep cultural imprint that's not going to go away, I think, for a long time. And they spend all their time in society. They don't let you forget that either. When you're in school, whenever you're coming up, it's a part of the culture which is, I think, goes to the very core of what it means to be Israel. Even if you are a Sephardic Jew or any of that, it's beaten into you that over the 2,000 years of persecution, the pogroms, a large portion of Israeli societies, also Russians, suffered horribly under the Soviet Union, under the Tsar before that. So I think culturally, I understand it completely. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just like, you have to try and put yourself in the mind of what it is like to live in that state for the last 75, 80 years, and also to suffer, society-wide level terror bombings, which America would never tolerate, even 10% of what Israel has had to go through too.
The number one song in Israel right now is this rap song that calls for annihilating everyone and assassinating specific celebrities who have supported the Palestinian cause.
Yeah.
That's the state of the society. And part of what I have found so wrenching and sickening and disturbing, because again, I don't think they're any different than any other people around the world.
They're not.
Is how quick
they're going to be coming up to
there's a justification of things that should be moral atrocities that should be completely morally off the table. Certainly among a nation that considers itself, developed part of the first world democracy, quote unquote, etc. And that's what to me is so disturbing. And every basically group of people who justifies these sorts of horrors and atrocities against their fellow human beings, they all have that sense of it's us or them. They all have that sense of we're the victims. I mean, Nazi Germany, same thing, the sense of victimization and it's us or them and we're under threat, et cetera, et cetera. That is the feeling that is used to justify absolute horrors. And so to watch that unfold in real time has been absolutely stunning. There was a journalist who posted this long thread, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, about I want you to understand that when you are posting pictures of dead Palestinians, I don't care. I do not care at all. Posting this publicly. Again, a journalist, an Israeli journalist posting this publicly. And so that to me has been one of the things that has been so shocking to watch unfold, is how quickly even people here in the U.S. who haven't experienced all this trauma and don't have that, generational wound and aren't experiencing the suicide attacks and the, sirens going off and the, quote unquote rocket fires, etc., who are also justifying the annihilate them all, wipe them out, etc., etc. So
they're under us.
It's disturbing, I guess.
They're under us.
I understand. I understand where you're coming from. I think we should all just try and put ourselves in the minds of both these people. I can put it from the Palestinian perspective too. I mean, it's crazy. Daryl Cooper, I think, does the best job of that. He's like, look, we tried everything. Going this in our lifetimes, our grandfather's lifetimes. I've met Palestinian. I've met Palestinian people who still have the key to their house.
Do you want to go to that from the right?
That was taken away from them in 1948.
Yeah.
And that gets passed down. Even though that woman's mom is dead, it was passed down to the mom. They still have that key mounted above their door. So don't forget that too, on the other side. They remember deep. It goes into the kids, it goes into their grandkids. So these things don't heal easily.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.
Wait, call it? Wait, what is it? Okay, let's see. Let's call it.
We've seen that on.
Don't let it happen to you. They had to have some number on here, right? 373-4253.
Into me.
Available on iTunes, Amazon, and other streaming outlets. Check out more videos at youtube.com/BrentWeinberg. You can follow Adam.
Where did you get this?
At Adam Schiff.
Where did you get that number? What? Okay. Nice. Thank you. Very nice.
What the fuck?
Alright. We've done quite a few videos on this topic now, to the point where we could probably have a DVD box set at some point. And I know I said we weren't going to talk about it again, but dang it.
Dang it, Bobby.
We have to, because more stuff has happened in the developments of who's going to be the new drummer for Slipknot. Now, of course, in some of my previous videos, I've talked about some of the people who I thought might be the go-to kind of, good fits. We talked about Ellis DePario. We talked about Simon, Clown's Kid, Krim. Talked about Aloy, like some good people with good chops that we thought could be a fit. And then, if you're not aware, which if you've seen the other videos you are, I'll just give you a quick recap. Jeremy Kling, the drummer for Venom Inc., announced that he was leaving Venom Inc. right as Slipknot announced that they were kicking out Jay Weinberg. And there's been some subtle little things here and there that have made us start thinking, whoa, could this be the guy? But now, I really don't know because some stuff's happened, so let's get into this. So as you can see, here we are on Jeremy's Instagram page, which I've been following since all this happened, and it's clear that a lot of other people are too, because news reports are quick on this now. But about a week ago, I believe it was like November 19th or something, Jeremy posted this picture of a new snare drum that he got from D-Drum. The caption says, "New Gear Day. Love this new Ash Birch Dominion snare from D-Drum USA. It's a cool yellow-orange. What should I name it? Help me out with that. Post a name in the comments. If I end up digging the name, I'll send you something in the mail. Maybe a guitar pick, maybe a drumstick, maybe a sticker. I don't know, something." Not much to go off of there. Drummers get new drum kits all the time. But hold on here. Let's get the appropriate hat on. All right, now we're ready. Now we're ready for the conspiracy. The big noticeable thing on this one, there are a few hashtags. One of the hashtags says, #I'm 666. Now, of course, Slipknot fans immediately will get that reference because that comes directly from lyrics from the Heretic Anthem, which that chorus is, "If you're 555, then I'm 666. So immediately, everybody's going to start thinking, damn. Like, that's a drop right there. That's him basically confirming he's going to be the next Slipknot drummer. Now, let's take this off. However, that may have just been coincidence, because as he talked about in the comments when people were asking him about being 666, he's like, yeah, I was in Venom Inc. We have a song called Sons of Satan that we played every night, which is absolutely true. And if I would like to bring this up, Venom Inc. regularly uses 666s on their merchandise, as you can see on screen. That is not really as damning evidence as I think a lot of other people thought it was. My first thought right there, too, he could be trolling at this point. If he's not their new drummer, he could potentially just be trolling and having a laugh at this point because of all the press that's going on with people saying that he might join Slipknot. One of the other things, though, about this drum is that is a 13-inch snare. For those of you that don't know a ton about drums, 13-inch snares are becoming pretty popular. They're not uncommon or unheard of at all. I would say 14-inch snares are a little more common. The difference between 13-inch, 14-inch, 15-inch snares, you also have to include the depth of the snare in there as well, but you're going to get different tones. With a 13-inch snare, you're going to get a tighter sound. You're going to get a higher pitch note. You're going to get a tighter whack on it. You're gonna get a good crack out of the drum for sure. But in the interest of wearing the tinfoil hat, guess who else used a 13-inch snare? Joey Jordison! And it's his signature snare from Pearl. Now I'll fully admit that is an absolute reach. That is more for just comical nonsense than anything. But if you listen to a lot of Slipknot's old music with Joey drumming on it, you can definitely hear the sound of that snare. It's very tight. It's very high wound and cracky. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that a Slipknot replacement drummer would go for a 13-inch snare, but I think we need to bring it up too that Jay Weinberg was using a 14, and his signature from SJC was a 14-inch snare, not a 13. That's a huge reach. Obviously, we brought the tinfoil hat out for that one. That's just connecting dots that probably aren't there. But I know some of you that haven't seen any of this news yet are probably like, wow, this is kind of on 6, right? Well, oh, this guy did he just reconfirm that he's the drummer? And a lot of people were thinking, maybe it was a subtle hint. Well, then, in the spirit of what does Corey Taylor think, Corey Taylor actually chimed in on this, like yesterday, within 24 hours ago, and says, to everyone wondering about our new drummer, it's not him. Stop letting him troll you. He's not even on the list. Hashtag, he's not 666. Or, if you read that differently, hashtag, he's not 666. And then the news outlets, again, the TMZs of the metal world, immediately were like, Corey Taylor just put it to sleep. Like, he said Jeremy Kling is not the drummer.
I'll craft you.
Fair enough. I get why you would put that headline out, but can we just, for a second, bring up, in the interest of fairness, he might be deflecting! Artists do this all the time. He might be absolutely deflecting. But I want to kind of like break this down really quick because I thought this was interesting. There were some people that responded to him and were like, people figured out who your new drummer is too quick and you just don't want them to know. Now, let's just look at this like Corey's absolutely 100% telling the truth, not trying to deflect anything. He didn't even mention Jeremy by name. He just said it's not him, which is interesting. I figured he would just say it's not Jeremy Kling if that was the case. He said stop letting him troll you. Fair point. The dude might be having a laugh at this point. But what I thought was kind of unfair about this, kind of shitty, Corey said he's not even on the list. So if what he's saying is true, it's like, why do you even need to put that on there? You're basically, in the nicest way possible, saying this guy is not good enough to be in our band and we're not even looking at him. I actually think that's pretty mean to say he's not even on the list. But to extrapolate that even further, if he's not on the list, that means they have a list. They might not have a new drummer yet, which I was leading to thinking they probably did already. And according to what I looked up, their first show that they have next year, the most recent show that they have coming up to right now while we're filming, is April 27th at Sick New World. And then May 12th at Welcome to Rockville. So that is, in my experience, more than enough time to get a new drummer ready to go. I mean, dude, if their show's on April 27th, they could find somebody in early April and probably still be ready. I mean, there's been guys that have jumped into situations many times with barely any time to, rehearse with the band or anything like that. Now, if it's somebody on that short of notice, I would have to say it's probably somebody that they know, that they have a rapport with. Because if you're a band the size of Slipknot, you're not just going to get a random person. You're going to get somebody that you know is going to mesh well with you. You're going to get somebody that you've spent time around that you know you're going to be able to tolerate them. Or maybe not. I don't know. Because as we heard, it was rumored that Jay getting fired was a long time coming because it was a personality thing or a character thing. And I don't know, man. But I do think it's interesting that now we're in a point where it's like, is Jeremy trolling, or did the cat unintentionally get out of the bag and now they're just trying to cover it up? I'm curious to see what happens. I'm invested in this at this point. In my mind now, if it's somebody other than Jeremy, I'm going to be like, oh, man. Because this whole thing has been super funny so far, to be honest. Cosmonaut Cozy in chat just said, are we even sure the drummer's gender is male? No, of course not. We don't know. But from my experience in the music industry, I would say that a band made up of 8 other dudes is probably gonna hire another dude to be their drummer. I would guess. Like we've talked about on this channel before, I have worked for bands on the road that refuse to hire women. For whatever reason it is to them. Whether, I've heard every excuse in the book. So, I don't know. None of us really know, but we'll find out eventually. Pinup Mariposa said, I think he's trolling, but he makes hype around this person and maybe his current band. That's a good point. I mean, Jeremy's Instagram followers doubled, like, from the time, like, I brought him up in that first video, and he does have multiple other bands he's in. I mean, at the very least, if he doesn't become the drummer for Slipknot, a lot of people know who he is now that didn't know who he was before. So that is a good point. Polka Metal says Slipknot is going to drag this out to keep people talking about him. I think that's a good point to bring up. In the day and age where everybody's fighting for headlines and media attention and stuff like that, I mean, it is Slipknot. It's not like they need to do that. It's not like any media attention is going to do anything huge for them, but it very well could be. They could possibly drag this out until the last second just to keep the headlines on them. I mean, that is something to bring up, but they're not going to drag it out forever. They've got a show April 27th, so they're going to have somebody before then. The Dead Skip said it's odd that people care this much about a hired gun. I think at the bare minimum, Slipknot's a huge band that everybody in metal knows of, and people love drama and controversy. That's all this is. Now, there are definitely people that grew to love Jay Weinberg and Slipknot and love him as a drummer, but yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. The Colombian Vikings said I wouldn't be surprised if they don't announce who the drummer is until they are on stage. They probably won't even announce who it is. Slipknot has never announced who a new member is on stage. They basically just keep it going until the fans, like, deduce who it is because they have masks and stuff on. I mean, they were pretty quick with V-Man because of his tattoos on his hands and stuff. And then I think Jay was found out a little after that. I mean, even when Tortilla Man replaced Chris, the whole internet was in an uproar trying to figure out who Tortilla Man was. And then they finally did, and everybody's general consensus was, who the is that guy? Which brings us to a good point. Whoever they hire might not be somebody notable that everybody knows. This could be some musician that...
What are we doing, bro?
This kind of touring experience. You never know. And Clarity Affliction says, giant publicity stunt. I bet they've already got someone and have him or already practices. Very well could be the case. And there, like I said before, there is... with modern media and stuff, they could be loving the publicity from this. I mean, so this is a Google Trends on Slipknot over the past 5 years. You can clearly see right here, what date is this? This is around July 25th, 2021. Massive spike. What happened around then? Is that when an album came out? Ah, I think Frost got it. I knew it was 2021. I don't know why it didn't hit me. Yeah, July 26th, 2021. So that giant peak right there is when Joey Jordison passed away. And that is the most trending that Slipknot has been. Now let's do something interesting here. I mean, look at that. So to Mariposa's point that she just brought up earlier, where Jeremy could be trolling just for the attention for himself as a drummer in the band. I mean, in the past 5 years, Jeremy Kling has basically not been trending at all, and now all of a sudden, boom, all the way up. Compare with Venom Inc. Yeah, it's Venom Inc. is the highest they've been trending in the last 5 years as well. So if you look at this entire situation in the scope of publicity and marketing and stuff like that, it's clear to see here that, like, it's doing a lot for all parties. Slipknot is trending higher than they have been in the past year. Jeremy Kling and Venom Inc. are trending higher than they have for the last 5 years. Like, there's a lot of attention around this. So if we just take out the drama of the drummer and everything else, all parties involved in this are benefiting just by the names being out there. So this could very well be what everybody wants. Who knows? I don't know. I just like to speculate from time to time and get the tinfoil hat on. But anyways, I'm not going to make any more promises about not talking about this again, because I did before and then this happened. But we'll just keep our eyes on it like we always do. I think this is interesting at this point. My gut now is leaning towards Jeremy probably is not their drummer. That's what my gut instinct says. But I don't know, because I do find Corey's statement a little interesting too. This could be them messing around, knowing that they're messing with people, and as we can see, trends are up.
Get the fuck up here.
Talking about it could just be giant PR. Who knows? Thank you to everybody that was here live on Twitch while we did this. Thank you to all of you that are watching this on YouTube later. If you're on YouTube and you'd like to join us on Twitch, you can go to twitch.tv/tankthetech, where I often just talk about stuff like this, play games, and I'm on a ton of different social media. @tankthetech is my handle on everything. But wherever you are in the world, until next time, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I'll be back very soon.
Oh my god, you just left me too, huh?
2600 back, and 1600 AF, which actually came out.
I stayed for you, and that's what happens.
2600, and was wildly successful because it was $85. That was a problem, though. It disappeared pretty quickly, and when it reappeared, it was at scalped prices. Today, we're looking at how the 2600
fuck are you
series
doing,
and the
Light?
1600 AF, same thing, more or less.
Oh
perform versus modern CPUs. So we're looking at AM4 options for drop and upgrade, like the 5800 XD, Intel options that are new, and AM5.
Gaming
So, you've been running on a 2600 class system for a while, and you're thinking about upgrading. This should get you an idea for what kind of relative percent uplift you can see, or some absolute numbers in some cases. So let's get started. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 series. Arctic ships its Liquid Freezer 2 in both ARGB and non-RGB variants, and we found their coolers to be among the best performers for our CPU test bench. We've bought several now and have them on our GPU and CPU test benches for daily use. Arctic also has its P12 Max and P8 Max fans that we've been using in some of our ITX case reviews. You can find links to all of these in the description below. So the 2600 CPU, we gave our best overall award or best gaming or budget or something. We gave them a couple of awards, these R5 class CPUs in the earlier days of Ryzen. That's because they were really good, especially at the price. The 2600, it launched at $200. 2600X was like $230, and of course the 1600 AF much later, but at $85. And even in the former two scenarios, that was extremely competitive. They offered a good amount of performance, good multi-threaded performance at the time, and that made them awesome options for AM4 builds. And I think probably a lot of people are still running those CPUs, and they're still good today. Of course, you can upgrade. You get multiples in some instances depending on how high end you go, but they are still capable of running a lot of games at completely playable frame rate as long as your GPU is able to keep up. Even in spite of this, the CPUs were of course limited, so this 2000 era of Ryzen CPUs in games that were more frequency dependent, you could see them start to struggle a little bit, at least comparatively, compared to a lot of Intel's best options from the era. But it probably helped to have some context because it's been a while, so let's check back in on those specs. Here are the spec listings for the CPUs we're revisiting today. The AMD R5 2600 is a 6-core, 12-thread CPU that advertises a boost up to 3.9 GHz. Back in the day, overclocks could commonly hold 4 to 4.2 GHz all-core for the 2600, but at the maximum boost of 4.1 GHz. So that was a primary contribution for the extra $30 or so. Its base clock is 3.6, which is up from 3.4. The AMD R5 1600 AF is a slower variant of the Zen Plus 2000 series CPUs, just with an older name. Back when we reviewed it, we noted that it may not be as good of a bin as a 2600. We had no real way to know that at the time, but it all made sense given the pricing and the timeline in which it was available. Its price was shockingly low, and that's what made it such a good deal. There's some slight differences, but we talked about those in the 1600 AF review. Now we're going to look at some pricing and options. We put together a couple of quick reference price tables using Newegg and Amazon, and this should help anyone get reacquainted with the price. And if you haven't followed it too closely and you're thinking about a possible upgrade or new build right now. So the goal here is to just show you what's going on with the CPU market currently. So here's a quick reference table for some pricing right now on modern AM4 and AM5 CPUs. We'll look at Intel next. The R5 2600, 2600X, and 1600 AF original prices are also listed here. The 2600 was $200. That category has most recently been handled by the 7600 Non-X, or the 7600X as shown here in a slightly higher price class. The 1600 AF was again briefly an $85 CPU, but its insane price was wiped out pretty fast by scalpers and retailers when they caught on to how popular it was. Modern in-socket upgrades could include a 5600 or a 5600X, the 5700X, which is basically the same in performance as a 5800X, and then the best possible upgrade for gaming at least would be the 5800X3D. The X3D is still available new, and it's around $322 right now. If your budget dictates that you either get a 7600 and a new board, or a 5800X3D, then the X3D will get you the most gaming uplift if newer board features and I/O aren't needed. Of course, you will also be sort of stranded on the AM4 platform, but that would be the peak of it. The 7800X3D isn't too distant in price.
Not even showing the 5900X.
It's been on and off for sales, but you'd have to consider motherboard price.
These prices were all spot checked on Amazon and Newegg for this piece, but remember that prices are fluctuating nearly daily right now. Well, let's look at Intel. For Intel, some of the relevant options might include a 13600K or KF at $250 to $270, which are cheaper than the new 14600K and functionally the same, or the same enough that it's not worth the extra money. The 13700K is around $345 now, with the higher-end i9 CPUs at $580 or so for the 14900K. There are a lot more CPUs than these, of course. These are some of the most relevant ones right now. We have a lot of them in the benchmark charts today. We've taken out some of the ultra-high-end CPUs just because it's such a difference in performance class. If you want to see those, you can check out the 7980X review for the really, truly high-end stuff. Even if just for fun. We're going to be focusing on more of the gaming side of things, but a little bit of production at the end, some multi-threaded stuff. So, let's get started. Baldur's Gate 3 is up first, tested at 1080p medium. This one has been a reliable CPU load and shows clean scaling for most parts tested, but especially for these older CPUs. And it's a new and popular game, which makes it great for testing. The R5 2600X ran at about 51 FPS average in this chart, with the 2600 just behind it, the 1600 AF effectively tied with the 2600, which makes sense for the reasons we discussed earlier. We'll talk upgrades first. The 5800X CD would be the largest in-socket improvement you could get, at least for this scenario, pushing a little past doubling the FPS for any of these three.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm only doing this to fight and win.
Keep up, it'd feel like basically a new computer. Other in-socket options might include a cheaper bump to a 5700X or 5800X, where we saw about a 54% increase in performance depending on which CPU you look at. It wouldn't make much sense to move to a 2700 series CPU from a 2600, but a 5600 or a 5600X might if the cost was blown up. Meanwhile, on the new platform side, Intel's 13600K or 14600K would be the most price-conscious improvement. You'd have some added benefit in multi-threaded workload applications that the 5800X really won't match, despite the deficit in some of these games as compared to it. For most people watching, probably the game's performance matters more though. As for its new AMD options, the 7800X 3D would push past the 5800X 3D to 122 FPS average, while something like a 7700X or 7600X would offer uplift with a lot of new motherboard and I/O options, but a lower barrier to entry price than, say, a 7800X 3D. At 1440p, the lineup is mostly the same. That makes sense since we're so CPU bound. If you're running a better GPU than CPU, or just in games that are more CPU constrained, you'd see an uplift even as resolution or graphics options increase, as long as it stays CPU bound. That's shown in this example pretty well. Cyberpunk 2077's new Phantom Liberty expansion is up now, serving as another relatively high CPU load for a modern and popular game.
45.
This is a new game since the
You stream pretty cool, that's why I followed you.
Mark
Holla 45.
Well, thanks.
I will love to make friends and be a fan, if you wish. Mark Holla 45. Kindly chat me on Discord. My username is Shirley_Stewart.
No sir, I will not do that. Take your Discord and go somewhere else. Thank you, goodbye.
Has a higher maximum boost clock. These CPUs are still handling Cyberpunk really well, despite the age. The lows are also completely acceptable here, with no major game-ruining spikes in our test path.
The new
Hey, buddy, come in. You wanna join? Add me on Discord, since I'm not gonna let you join my Discord. Then you'll obviously know it's spammy.
Like with the 7800X 3D, would move the needle to
instead, I'll just give you my username, and then I'll add you there.
Grappling with some non-CPU limitations. Going from the R5 2600 series to the 5600X or 600 would still provide meaningful improvement if you can get one for cheap enough. The 5800X, and likewise the unshown but nearly identical 5700X,
I can't even see from here, buddy. I got no
Intel's
scope.
13600K would also provide major uplift, this one about 71% on the lower end of that range. And then non-3D CPUs, like the 7700X, get most of the benefit of the 5800X 3D, but move you to something newer, maybe some more forward-looking in-socket upgrade later on. At 1440p, we saw about the same line.
One for 48.
The top end is now slightly limited, cut from 203 FPS average at peak to about 190, but otherwise you still get a big improvement with a sufficiently high-end GPU. If moving off of the 2600 or 1600 AF CPU. Starfield is up now. As another of the two brand new games we've recently added, it's gone through the most dramatic changes, maybe Cyberpunk aside. All of the testing was conducted with the same game version for this, which is one version prior to the recent mega patch. That means the data on this chart is directly comparable to itself, but you get some uplift moving to a new game version. For purposes of comparing old CPUs, though, we still have plenty of room to see scaling and run the numbers. Here's the chart. The R5 2600, the X, and the 1600AF all run at about 53 to 54 FPS average. The 2700X was around 56 FPS average, so not much difference there. And the 2700 data on this chart is within error of the 2600 and the 1600AF. So another round of reruns might get us another 1 to 2 FPS depending on variance. We've seen that there's a couple frames per second variance at this range, but it's all within error here. The 5800X 3D, however, definitely is.
Really? You want me to run through that? Are you dumb?
Around a 71% uplift in a like-for-like scenario against the 2600X. It's not as crazy as we've seen in some other games, but it's still a huge
I can barely hear you. Your mic is very low.
132 FPS average in this one, so the 13600K or 14600K might also be viable alternatives, providing around double the frame rate. F1 2023 is up now. In this one, the 2600 ran at 175 FPS average, with the 2600X holding a 4% lead. The 1600AF was near the 2600 at 172, basically run-to-run variants at the scale. That these CPUs can still run modern games in the hundreds of frames per second shows how viable they still can be. It also depends on the game, of course, but at least here we're seeing good performance. The 5800X 3D leads the 2600X by about 149%. This is an insane jump considering the nature of the in-socket change. As we've said before, it's crazy that such a wide gap can exist while being tested in the exact same board with the same RAM and other components. But remember, that's only made possible if the GPU provides enough scaling headroom. The 7800X 3D boosts further at 181% over the 2600X, and Intel's options might land you on a 13600K at about 350 FPS average, or the 14700K at 407 FPS.
Try to put some cover down, but you gotta move.
Although it produced higher ones at low, at 1440p, the R5 2000 series and the AF ran in the 170 and 180 FPS average range. The top of the chart has changed, with the limit now closer to 400 FPS, but the lower end here is mostly the same. In Stellaris, we're looking at time reduction for CPU simulation time. As always, we calculate in the direction of improvement, which here is reduction, so faster simulation time here means percent time reduced from the reference point. In this one, the R5 2600 required a long 65 seconds for the simulation time. That's noticeable as a player. You will see that. And you're waiting for over a full minute for the full simulation process. The 2600X is similar, with an improvement of 4.7% time reduced. The 1600AF ran a little behind the 2600, where the 2600 was improved by 2.5%. The 2600X shows us that frequency does have an impact here, and the 2700X versus the 2700 comparison teaches us the same lesson. 3D cache benefited the 58X 3D over the 5800X, where we saw an uplift of 12% time reduced, but didn't meaningfully help the 7800X 3D over the 7700X as a result of encountering other limitations, possibly engine limits. The Intel upgrade pathway for a new build might yield a 13600K or 14600K as the best affordable option. Here, we see the simulation time of 32 seconds on the 13600K, or 51% improved over the 2600, where improved again means percent time reduced. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the R5 2600 ran at 130 FPS average, with the 2600X at about 135. It's about a 4% lead over the 2600, and similar over the 1600AF. Those are similar on all of these. As for upgrade avenues, the first meaningful one might be the R5 2600X at 209 FPS average, or the 5800X or 5700X, which performs similarly against the 58X. Intel's 13600K reference point that we've used improves by about 76% over the 2600X, and the 58X 3D approaches the limits for this chart, but doesn't quite fully hit them. It's at 315 FPS average, or 150% over the 2600X.
Let's keep moving.
78X 3D and 7950X 3D show us the limitations of scaling in this test, even at 1080p. The last game test is for Rainbow Six Siege. In this benchmark, the 3D cache scaling is huge. See that when jumping between the 5800X and 5800X 3D at 552 FPS average to 650, or from the 7700X's 640 FPS average to 717 FPS average with the 78X 3D. The older 2000 series had the 20.
You're going there, bro? Are we going through to the
at 305,
circle?
The 1600AF was at 291 FPS average. The improvement from this series, the 5800X.
Is that guy alive? What do you mean you're crafting his banner?
From 2600. The jump to the 5600X is also a meaningful change. New builds with a 7800X V would multiply.
Is that guy playing? I thought he wasn't playing.
With Intel's 13600K mid-range option, offering a step between the 5800XOD and the 5600X. The wild thing with this chart is just how clear the generational improvement is. If we draw a line horizontally between the 5600X and the 700X, there's a clear gap that forms as a result of generational changes. Now we're moving on to production benchmarks, including Blender rendering. There should just remain Blender. For this, we're adding the 5950X and 5900X cards because they might be viable upgrade options for anyone who's not as heavy into gaming workload, but doesn't want to upgrade boards either. Just depends on the price. In Blender, smaller bars are better, so we don't invert the axis or turn it into a rate for this test, but instead use the base metric of time completed. Some other tests conducted in suites, like widgets, invert the axis and use aggregate calculations for bigger bar better charts, often in points. But we keep it simple in Blender. Calculating improvement means percent time reduced for CPUs that complete a single frame fixed unit of work in less time than the reference point. In this, the R5 2600 required 33 minutes to complete the render, allowing the 2600X to complete the work in 5% time reduced. The 2700 and 2700X show clear core and with the
I need a better gun.
Scaling of this work. Upgrade paths might
I have a 3030 and an R99. I'd like a
of 48% from the 2600 when calculating time reduced on a smaller is better axis with the base metric unchanged.
I want a rampage or a flatline.
On this kind of work, although the value against a brand new build would heavily depend on pricing. The jump to about 10 minutes render time is massive here. 70% time reduction. The 13600K offers value as a balanced chip here with its good overall game performance we saw earlier and advantaged all-core performance against something like the 800X series. There's a reason it won best balanced CPU from us. 7-zip compression is up now, back to bigger bar better for when bigger number better. In this one, the 2600, the X, and the 1600 AF are all adjacent at the bottom of the updated chart. The 5600X would offer a meaningful uplift in file compression performance with large gains coming from the 13600K or if you spend more, the 5950X. Newer CPUs like the 7900X or the 7950X
Who's getting shot?
begin offering crazy performance improvements, but these would really only be worth paying for if you regularly run compression processes. And file decompression, still measured in millions of instructions per second, the 2600X lagged the 5800X an improvement of 81%, and the 5950X an improvement of 230%. The 13600K again provides a good balance, although the 5800XD isn't too distant if you're focused on gaming first and foremost. Next one is Adobe Premiere, tested with Bench, where it aggregates multiple scores based on performance. Premiere theoretically measured a number of different ways, depending on what's fun. Examples could include frame rate, playback, scrubbing, and time for rendering. For various points-based system, the 2600 scored 420 points here, just ahead of the 1600F, and 50% behind the 2600X. The 5800X and XPDs score around 600 points, or an uplift massively of 40%. 7700X also shows large gains of 24% and would be a good modern option. From Intel, the 13600K again illustrates a good balance of price, gaming performance, and non-gaming performance. The 14900K and 7950X are leaders. Adobe Photoshop illustrates optimization. But they hit it less than it used to. Clearly would have loved it if Intel ever shipped that 10 GHz CPU in 2005. In this one, the 2600, 2600X, and 1600AF again establish the chart fade. The 5600X posts a massive improvement from generational changes, marking a 33% boost over the 2600X. The 5950X sadly doesn't benefit from its core count much here, with the 5900X establishing more of a so-called sweet spot. The 7700X offers a great balance by leading the chart, but remaining in a relatively more affordable price class than i9 and R9 CPUs, with the 13600K doing the same, but with more price focus at a sub-$300 price class these days. Here's the power consumption chart. The R5 2600 originally was measured at about 84 watts when tested in the exact same conditions as our modern CPUs are tested. The X isn't on this chart, but we did overclock the 2600 to 4.2 GHz back in the day. For that test, we measured a 145 watt draw at the EPS 12 volt cables, with the 1600AF pulling 152 watts for its higher V4 requirement to sustain 4.2 GHz. The 1600AF base model pulled 83 watts. Again, that's basically a 2600 era CPU, just got a different name to it. The non-overclocked numbers are easy to cool by today's standards. The overclocked numbers, while super inefficient overall, still manage to be lower than a lot of today's CPUs. Of course, a lot less effective, but it gives you some context for cooler requirements today. Here's the efficiency chart. We're completing a single frame of work and monitoring the energy consumption. In this one, the 2600 ranked the lowest on the chart at 46 watt hours, although the 84 watt draw from the previous chart was relatively low in an absolute sense. The efficiency, shown here, isn't nearly as strong as modern AMD parts. Anyone upgrading from this generation will see huge improvements in efficiency, or the amount of work completed with the amount of power that's used. The 2700 pulled about 8 to 9 watts less in the original power consumption testing, of which, alongside its core count increase and therefore performance boost for Blender, made it much more efficient than the 2600 here. This might be the real story. AMD's efficiency has significantly improved generationally. Some of that is also in the BIOS improvements. So that's it for the recap here. The 2700 we looked at in a separate revisit a couple weeks ago. You can check that out on the channel. We also did a best CPUs of 2022 roundup to give you a top-level rundown of what we think the best CPUs are for different tasks right now. As for the 2600s here, the performance, just like the 2700, is clearly still good for a lot of these games. It's a question of, is it good for the applications you're running? So if you have transitioned into more multi-threaded applications and workloads, probably you're starting to feel that right now, where the R5s from that era, they're competitive at the time for the pricing, but things have definitely changed. So that might be a compelling reason to upgrade. Another one is just if you want to build a computer right now, and then another one would be if you feel like when you're playing games, it's just not delivering the frame rate you want. But just as a general reminder, as always, these are still capable CPUs. So if you don't have an active reason where the performance of the system is bothering you or something like that, then you don't have to upgrade. They're still good. If you did want to upgrade, then an obvious choice here. The 5800 XD will get you the most you can possibly get out of AM4. You want to move to a new platform because the 58 XD, it is a big uplift, but you're still going to be marooned on AM4. The next obvious option would be something like if you're more budget conscious and you want a balanced build. The 13600K makes a lot of sense, especially if you have the price drop. You don't need the IDP. And then if you want something higher end and sticking with AMD, but still a little budget conscious, the 7700X is a pretty good contender here, replacement for the R5s. Truly high end, like 78XD for gaming, or 14.7, 14.9 or something for mixed workloads with Intel, or 13 series with GPU. Mostly the same thing. We've got some differences in the 700K SKUs, but the options there jump the price a lot, of course. So the 58XD, the 7700X, these are options that are worth looking more into for what you do. And more gaming heavy, you start with an XP.
I do not understand.
Less focused on gaming than, again, the i5 or maybe an i7 or 7700.
This motherfucker changed his fucking name.
Standalone reviews for each of those parts. So, it's fun to look back at this one. The last roundup we did, we asked you all to leave comments on what you wanted to see rounded up or revisited after the 2600 series. And the most popular comment was the 8600K and the 8700K. So we'll probably dig those out and start working on that at some point over the next month or two. But same question here. After those two, we might get some from there first, but after those top 4, what do you want to look at next for a revisit? So, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. As always, leave your comments below with the answer and upload it.
Fucking go, Joe.
Hello everyone and welcome back to our series Unreal Creations in partnership with Epic Games to show off some unique UEFN experiences and islands. Jake is in Iowa this week. Who knows
what he's doing that. Joey, da-da-da-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Santos said he attended New York's prestigious Horace Mann Prep School, but the school disagrees. Santos said he attended undergrad at Baruch, but the school disagrees. Santos said he received an MBA from NYU, but the school disagrees. According to Capture Week's colleagues and prospective donors, Santos has claimed one hell of a work history. It includes him being a Brazilian journalist, a model during New York's Fashion Week, and a producer for Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. And there is zero evidence that any of that is true. George or Anthony or whatever your name is, if you're going to claim to produce a Broadway musical, at least pick a good one.
This is the mall I grew up going to. Hilltop Mall. It was once an incredibly vibrant and populated mall with tons of people there every single day. And if you don't believe me, listen to the newswoman.
Richmond's Hilltop Mall is officially dead. In its heyday, it was a bustling shopping center, home to a Macy's, movie theater, and even an ice skating rink.
But this week, I just saw this video going viral. As cool as this is, look how they massacred my boy. According to recent data, over the past decade, the number of closed malls in the United States has skyrocketed. In 2010, around 1,100 malls were in operation. Fast forward to 2020, and that number has plummeted to just over 700. That's a staggering 36% decrease in just 10 years. Now, you might be wondering what's causing this unprecedented decline. Well, there are several factors at play. One significant factor is the changing landscape of retail. The rise of e-commerce giants like Amazon has fundamentally shifted the way people shop. If you don't believe me, my mall is now a parking lot for Amazon.
Amazon is right around the corner and already uses the mall parking lot to stage some of its delivery vehicles.
With the convenience of online shopping, many consumers are opting to make purchases from the comfort of their homes rather than traveling to the mall. Moreover, the integration of technology into our daily lives has played a crucial role. Augmented reality, virtual try-ons, and other tech innovations are changing how consumers interact with products. And don't get me wrong, I think these things are amazing, but being around the retail space is faster growing, becoming increasingly trap foot trap. Another growing small space, overbuilding, and oversaturation. Everything is over the food and all resulting in asset reflux. As consumer habits change, these overbuilt malls are finding it difficult to stay relevant and profitable. Now, as we look into the declining malls, we can turn the first to the world of online content creation. The research of exploring random places.
What I am experiencing at this very moment, everything is empty. This fountain has no water in it. It's just odd. But then there's Bath and Body Works, and it's open.
It seems that with the increasing number of vacant malls, urban explorers and content creators are finding a new canvas to capture the eerie beauty of these once vibrant spaces. I mean, for years, decades now, motherfuckers with even a penchant of adventure and curiosity have been documenting their journeys through abandoned structures. It's not new. However, the sheer scale of mall closures has given a rise to a subgenre within the urban exploration community: the exploration of deserted shopping centers. These videos provide viewers with a unique glimpse into the remnants of consumer culture and the decay of retail giants. In a way, these abandoned malls are like modern ruins, echoing stories of a bygone era. Creators are drawn to the juxtaposition of faded storefronts and the memories embedded in these spaces. The haunting visuals of dilapidated escalators, overgrown plants, and deserted food courts have become a captivating backdrop for content that explores the intersection of consumerism.
While exploring this abandoned mall, we found an abandoned T-Mobile store with phones still left behind. This mall closed as early as 2008, but some stores stayed until 2013, according to this McDonald's cup we found.
What's fascinating is the impact that these exploration videos has on audiences. They not only serve as a form of entertainment, but also spark discussions about the changing landscape of retail and the implications of our society. Viewers are prompted to reflect on the importance of the structures we once thought were invincible and the cyclical nature of urban development. A lot of abandoned malls have entered the moniker mall ghost towns, where echoes of bustling crowds are replaced by silence. This resurgence in exploring abandoned malls has created a vibrant online community. Viewers share their own memories of these places, discuss the socioeconomic factors contributing to their demise, and even propose creative ideas for repurposing these spaces. It's a testament to the power of digital storytelling in fostering connections and fostering a collective understanding of our changing world.
We then found a sketchy entrance to get inside the mall, and once we placed foot inside, I was kind of freaking out. I mean, there could be anything inside of this mall. Dead bodies, murder weapons, zombies.
So, in maybe bidding farewell to the traditional mall experience, it's fascinating to see how these once commercial hubs are finding themselves in life through the lens of urban exploration. What about you? Have you ever had a good time Well, tell me the truth. A Gen Zer might be watching because they probably don't remember malls. I had a Gen Zer tell me that they'd never had a fun time at the mall, and I'm like, the mall used to be the place. But I can see why if you were born after 2000, you wouldn't know that. So write a comment letting a Gen Zer know that the mall used to be cool. So now that we've explored the decline of malls and the creative resurgence in documenting their abandoned spaces, let's shift our focus to potential solutions. While the challenges are undeniable, there's a growing movement aiming to breathe new life into these public spaces and redefine their purpose for the communities they once served. One inspiring solution gaining traction is adaptive reuse. Instead of leaving these structures to decay, communities are finding ways to innovate and repurpose them.
There are 14 residential units on Section 34, and 38 of those are micro-lofts, 19 of them that are 225 square feet, and 19 of them that are just under 300 square feet.
Abandoned malls are being transformed into vibrant community hubs, offering a mix of residential spaces, co-working areas, recreational facilities, and cultural centers. This not only revitalizes the physical space, but also fosters a sense of belonging and shared purpose. Another exciting trend involves integrating green spaces and sustainable design into mall renovation. Imagine transforming a deserted parking lot into a thriving urban garden, or converting a vacant anchor store into a sustainable marketplace. By incorporating eco-friendly elements, these projects not only contribute to environmental sustainability, but also create inviting spaces for people to connect with nature in this urban setting. So in the age of technology, some visionaries are leveraging innovation to reimagine the mall experience. Virtual and augmented reality can be integrated to provide interactive and immersive experiences. You know, at that place that the places be having now, I gotta go Sandbox. I wanna go to that. So smart infrastructure and connectivity can enhance convenience, making these spaces more adaptable to the needs of the modern consumer. A key element in revitalizing malls is fostering a supportive environment for local business. Imagine a mall filled with unique boutiques and locally owned cafes, things like that. Like the rent should be a little bit cheaper if the mall, the mall's not making any money. Make it easier for businesses to be able to afford to set up there. Perhaps the most crucial aspect of revitalizing these spaces is community engagement. Initiatives that involve local residents in the planning and decision-making process ensure that the reimagined malls truly reflect the needs and aspirations of the community. Like the Hilltop Mall that I was talking about, they got a guy. He's trying to do something.
We've actually got a group called Revitalize Hilltop. That's our goal, is to bring a mixed-use development here.
By fostering a sense of ownership, these spaces can become not just commercial centers, but genuine community assets. So the decline of malls presents an opportunity to actually reinvent and transform our spaces. So the solutions we explored today highlight the power of creativity, sustainability, and community collaboration. Whether through adaptive reuse, green initiatives, tech-enhanced experiences, or supporting local businesses, the potential to turn these spaces into thriving hubs is limitless. It's a call to action for communities and visionaries alike to join hands and create a future where our public spaces, like the mall, can once again be vibrant centers of life, commerce, and connection. So what are your thoughts on these solutions? How would you re-envision the future of public spaces like the malls? Or do you really like the abandoned mall videos and don't even want them to be torn down? So thanks for watching, and here's another video I did about
EXO was my first group that I liked, and this is the first song that I liked. It's Call Me Baby, so I had to make a video for it.
Whoa.
Everybody, I'm a proud Doesn't Play $2,000 financial supporter. Skip it a button. Make sure you check out my music channel where I just did an unofficial remix where I produced the beat of Conway's John Woo fix. There'll be a link to that below in the description and the top pinned comment. And also, there'll be a link to my live stream channel where I live stream almost on a daily basis. You can check that out too and sub there if you want, which if you want to after this video, I'm sure some people will probably do. So for me, it has been 72 hours. It all started with a video that I made a couple days ago. Well, thanks to PlayStation, I'm now no piracy, which many of you think the video in and of itself doesn't issue, but doesn't play at issue. A video saying that I put out misinformation that games are just posters being taken out of the box. If you buy a physical game, I do say that the game is necessarily just a placeholder, but they say that's not true, and you know what? They were right, and they caught me red-handed. Here's a clip that they retweeted from a troll, which isn't necessarily professional of them, a known troll, by the way of mine. Maybe you should look into that. A company that prides itself on researching games. Just like, you know, that does have a multi-year library. I'll pay them $2,000. $2,000, get a game from the store doesn't run. That doesn't require an update. Mario Wonder, okay. So, technically, they were right. And even when they came on a live stream of mine, friendly, technically, I was right too. There are many articles out there saying that there is delay updates and that it's a problem, there's no gigabyte updates, but there are games that are out there that do not do updates. Even if there is a multi-gigabyte update patch, it's not necessarily needed to play the game. Play it optimally, but you don't need to have the game on the disc is playable if you don't update it. I mean, console that's not connected to the game. Well, as you saw in that clip, I said that if there was a game that I would give them $2,000. And there are games that don't need updates, but what they showed, people wrote about, and that was Super Mario RPG. They said that, look, that doesn't need an update. Right on your box, except for the fact that it has a game-breaking bug, Super Mario RPG. Now I know there's a workaround that you could restart the area and get through that game-breaking bug, but really? Like, the example you showed me to get money out of my pocket is a game that with evidence has a game-breaking bug in it. Okay, I wish I realized that when you first tweeted it at me. Super Mario RPG isn't my cup of tea, so I wouldn't have known that. Now, I'm a man of my word, and I did give them the money. That was also done on stream. You can see it. I had some issues with Patreon, but the money is now scheduled to go to them January 4th. And actually, what I said in DMs is that I would pay them via PayPal today. I would love to do it. I would love to give them the money now, one and done, know they have it, and we could go our separate ways. But they refunded my PayPal money, and they're saying they no longer want the $2,000. You saw my DM. We're going to blur out their side of the DMs. I'm not posting DMs with anybody, but I will say what they said because it's an integral part of this video. So, I technically was wrong. I admit it. I offer the money. But after I kind of start pointing out their mistakes, that's actually what made them say, nah, you know what, we're good. No, you can keep your money. I know they'll flip it and say that I was being a spoiled sport on Twitter, but money's green. Just take the money and just don't talk about it. I have no issue with you. I appreciate what you do, and I think it's important for game preservation. Even though you're just saying if the game's work on disc or not, so I'm not really sure what you're preserving, but nonetheless, I still think it's a good cause what you're doing. And I just want to show you what I wrote for a receipt in the DM. Again, their side's going to be blurred out. They wanted to do a Zoom call with me. I said at the beginning, no, there's really nothing else to talk about. Why are we doing the Zoom call? I said, no, I just want a link to pay you. PayPal link to pay you. Beyond that, there's nothing else to discuss. I already have the payment set up, so I didn't go back on my word. I'd just rather have the money sent to you now than have Patreon wait a month to give it to you. Then I wrote, actually, my producer and I would like to go on a Zoom call if you're still available. So we'll get to that part in a minute. But I'd rather have it one and done with and give them the money. But they responded back with, no, we refunded your Patreon and we don't want your $2,000. But if you had me, why would you not want it? Very bizarre. And they're very weird with what they consider playable. For example, they consider Cyberpunk 2077 for the PS4, or just in any case in its original state, playable. This is what they wrote on their website. Possibly one of the laggiest and most unstable disk build we have ever tested. Frame rate is terrible. Pop-in is so bad that oftentimes you'll have to stand in place for 30 seconds to wait for interiors to load, and otherwise you'll fall through the floor. They're saying this game is playable offline from the disc. It is still completely possible to finish the game unpatched, although it is highly recommended to not even attempt it unless you want an extreme patience test. So why would you say to people that this game is playable without patches and without updates? Why would you do that? It absolutely makes no sense. If anything, by you doing this, you're encouraging developers to say, hey, the game's broken, but you can get through it. It's okay to put it on the disc. To me, if anything, that's kind of anti-game preservation. But maybe with the donation that I gave you, that's in one chunk of the amount that you make for the entire month from your Patreon, you could fix issues like this and look into them deeper. I'm a proud supporter. Now, Super Mario RPG, which was the gotcha. Get the $2,000 interesting one, which has a game-breaking bug in it. Not to mention that part. They probably do that. I'm not an RPG guy, so I wouldn't know. But
I'll be back for you, buddy.
Nintendo announced that a patch that didn't come on the cartridge to fix the current version of Super Mario RPG on the Nintendo Switch, which is an issue that could prevent progress that would be considered game-breaking. The update to fix the issue is planned to release on December 2023, and the company will deliver more information about it via later. It's not on their website. That's cool. It's not on their website. But they came forward with a screenshot of Super Mario RPG not needing an update to get $2,000 out. I'm a proud supporter. We also consider Batman Arkham Trilogy out of the box for Nintendo Switch playable. No download code, yes. But Batman Arkham City and Night are both stub apps in the cartridge, require you to download both and update. Both games are implemented, so you download the update. Batman Arkham Asylum is complete on par, and there are no updates available at the time of testing. The game suffers from some very frequent noticeable frame drops when playing in dock mode. Handheld mode mostly runs okay, but there are still some occasional drops. All DLC included on the card. And with Arkham City, even though it's not on the card, so it's not a game, it runs like crap if you are in the Batmobile. Playable. Playable. Got a question. How are you preserving the game this time? I'm curious. Okay, you're telling people the game can play off the disc, but if anything, whether you realize it or not, you're defending the broken game being played on the disc. You're saying, oh, okay, Cyberpunk 2077, you're saying if someone got a PS4 disc of that with no updates in the future, if Sony shuts down, or Microsoft, that's playable. Okay. You're out of your mind. That's not playable. And you still consider that the litmus test for what passes? Mario RPG, which is the gotcha moment you used with me, has a game-breaking bug that they're releasing a patch for, and that was your gotcha moment too. Now the interesting thing in the back and forth here, and I'm not going to show the again, things will be blurred. I said to them, hey, my my editor slash producer Jay and I want to go on a call. They just said we want to put this to bed right now and they want to refund all the money. When I said to them, why do you not want the money? I appreciate what you do, and I was not saying that facetiously. They replied back with this, which is very bizarre. I'm not going to word directly from the DM. Is that they could do an NDA unrecorded call with the founder of the company that no longer is part of Does It Play? Which was the weirdest thing. Why does it have to be under NDA? What is the problem? If everything's okay and on the up, why do you want me under a non-disclosure agreement? The first thing I want to say is that I'd rather have developers have all the time in the world to do the most complete possible. I'd rather have games years to make than be rushed because publishers want to hit quota, make their quarter, and profit. I'm not looking to pressure devs into anything. I'd rather them not ever crunch, take all the time they need, so we get a great product and they get to live happy, healthy lives. And the second thing is, in any other industry, would this be acceptable? I know there's recalls, but there's recalls for a reason. If a car that you got came without an engine, the car looks great. You know what? The car looks great. There's just a workaround where I buy it and then they have to bring the engine to me. Would you just accept that? Or think of any other product. If you were buying a TV and they were like, yeah, you know, the TV, we have to put a patch in for the TV to actually run in 4K. Well, trust me, 1080p now, once you get that firmware update, it'll be 4K. Would you accept that? No, you wouldn't. So why with video games is it okay? Where is this helping preservation? Think about it. What is them telling you if a game is barely working like Cyberpunk 2077 out of the box, them preserving games? But you know what? Your cause is noble. I did offer the money. The offer still stands. I was willing to even give it today. And at least as of now, my payment is still scheduled to go to them on January 4th. They refund it. It's on them. Not Rich reviews that this is sliding out.
Alright, let's move on to the next part. George Santos is facing possibly an expulsion vote in Congress sometime this week, but he is going out with a bang. He did a Spaces, formerly known as Twitter, in which he really went on some of his colleagues, alleging some pretty debaucherous behavior behind the scenes. Now look, he's a proven liar. Should we believe him? Maybe, maybe not. Although I suspect this may be the truest thing that he's ever said.
I have a colleague who are more worried about getting drunk every night with the next lobbyist that they're going to screw and pretend like none of us know what's going on and sell off the American people, not show up to vote because they're too hungover or whatever the reason is, or not show up to vote at all and just give their card out for someone else to vote for them. This shit happens every single week. Reporters don't care to write about adultery anymore, and trust me, there's been plenty this Congress. I don't write about it anymore. George Santos is here. They should look at it this way. Look, George, with George being around, and how is this shit going to go under the rug? That's the reporters try to imagine. Just putting that out there because I think it's relevant. Who has no real track record of trading. This member has been able to outperform every single measure of stock trading this year so far. I mean, talk about insider trading. And there's so much to just pinpoint of when trades happen and when information will walk in front of that specific committee. It is going undermined all throughout the country by the very people that should be supporting them. These people will undermine. They will get in his way. They will redirect voters from others. Make no mistake, there is a lot of members in this body who hate
strategy is to wrap himself in the shroud of Trump and be like, I'm on Trump's side, that's why he shouldn't take me out, as if it's
That's why you care so deeply about adultery.
Yeah, he cares a lot. That's why he has OnlyFans hateful with his campaign finance ones. My favorite is when he went, what if he went on TV and claimed he didn't know what OnlyFans was, and then he's exposed with him having an account. Okay, certainly interesting. Reminds us a little bit of the Madison Cawthorn event. Let's put this up there on the screen. Don't forget, whenever he alleged that there were GOP lawmakers engaged in orgies who did key bumps of cocaine in front of him, he drew a huge ire from Kevin McCarthy and others who forced him to apologize. Again, it's possible he was telling the truth too. But all of this is in the backdrop of Santos facing a expulsion vote. Let's go ahead and put Axios, please, up there, where it currently looks like Santos says that he will not resign, that he will not resign, but is facing a vote of expulsion after that ethics committee report was released, which was the thing that Kevin McCarthy and Mike Johnson and others held onto. Johnson said that he spoke with Santos yesterday, that they're looking at a variety of options, and he's kind of thinking about what he wants to do. Santos is very that he won't resign, but of course, it'd be pretty humiliating to get expelled from Congress. He would be the only sixth person in American history.
This man is impervious to humiliation.
Yeah, that's true.
America's congressman tells everybody what they want to hear whenever they. Oh, you played volleyball. I played volleyball. Oh, you're Jewish. I'm Jewish. Oh, you have a connection to the World to the 9/11.
Yeah.
Oh, you were killed in that attack. So, listen, for him, for Madison Cawthorn, whatever, we are all prepared to believe the most salacious things you have to say about your colleagues there.
Yes.
But you gotta bring some receipts, okay? Especially at this point, credibility is not exactly at a high water mark, shall we say, right at this moment. So, if you're gonna spill the tea, good. Bring some receipts, tell us who.
Take some videos.
Yeah, go ahead.
Send me the video.
Expose the truth.
Yeah.
Expose the truth. We're all true.
Anyway, so will he get expelled or not? We'll see. It remains to be seen. If the vote will likely happen sometime this week. I mean, the Democrats are almost 100% on board. There have been some dear colleague letters that have been circulating of Republicans being like, hey, maybe we shouldn't kick him out. But the biggest issue for Santos is that even his Republican Party, remember this, at home, they want him to go. They want him to resign.
Yeah.
The people who are in his office say that they won't work with him. The mayor and others say that I absolutely refuse. So the local apparatus, the population, the Republican Party, and now House leadership and others, I don't think he's going to last. If it comes to a vote, of which is very possible, I don't think so.
Yeah, it looks like the swan song days for our great times with George Santos.
I'll miss his fashion and his lip filler and his film.
Still don't know about that one.
Maybe whether it's true or not. There's so many things about this George Santos, as you said, America's congressman. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I know it's been a long show today. We've got the merchandise on for sale. We, of course, have a discount going for our viewers. We appreciate we love all of you. We'll do a counterpoint show program tomorrow. We'll see you all.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization.
That's right. We're subscriber funded, building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.
So, do you like Honey or me more? Yeah. Okay. You just came back twice a year. With the love. So. So, put more. Who do you like more? You like to say that, honey?
Let's talk about the RNC funding. All right, so there was this moment in the debate. You guys probably remember the last debate that everyone hated and nobody watched, whatever. But the debate came out of the gate, swinging, and it was a bit of an unusual target that he selected here in RNC, Ronna Romney McDaniel. Are we supposed to drop the Romney now?
Ronna according to Trump, we should drop the Romney.
Okay. Anyway, here's what the candidate for president, Vivek Robertson.
We become a party of losers at the end of the day. There's a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them to resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats will get
Oscar to blame Ronna
The
McDaniel
fuck?
for the losses in Virginia, for, you know, the losses on all the abortion ballot measures, the underperformance in midterm. I mean, it's very clear what the big factors were here. But there is some interesting reporting about something that, you know, is going on behind the scenes. I don't think he has a point. But anyway, put this up on the screen from the Washington Post with regard to the RNC's funding. Apparently, the Republican Party's finances are incredibly worrisome to party members, advisors to former President Donald Trump, and other operatives involved in the 24 election effort. They just disclosed they have $9.1 million in cash on hand as of October 30th. That is the lowest amount for the RNC in any federal election commission report since February of 2015. Compares with about $20 million at the same point in the 2016 election cycle, so they've got less than half of what they had at that point in 2016, and about $61 million 4 years ago when Trump was in the White House. The DNC has a lot more money, roughly double, $17.7 million as of October 30th. And as to what's going on here, there isn't a lot of insight. You've got a Tennessee RNC member who said it's just a revenue problem. We're going through the same efforts we always go through to raise money, the same donor meetings, retreats, digital advertising, direct mail, but the return is much lower this year. If you know the answer, I'd love to know what the staff has managed to tighten down on expenses to keep the party from going into the red. Donors have not cut as many large checks to the RNC in recent years, and the party's small donor program has also suffered. I wonder what your analysis is of what is going on here, because my guess is that, I mean, Trump is the Republican Party. So, and we know the way that he really burns through his fundraising list and exhausts donors with just constant repeated requests. And so I think he's burned their donor base. And also is just like, it is him that is the party, so there's less incentive to then give to like the official party apparatus.
I'll bring it back to where I was talking about with Meg. I think you had a point in terms of partner dynamics, which I think is stupid. But let's put that aside.
Yeah.
And let's think about the RNC as it's constructed. You are right. Macro level, it's never going to change anything. But I know a lot of people who actually worked at the RNC, and they were very proud because of a lot of money they brought in 2012, is that they invested a ton of the Romney money and all the other things in that time for a voter outreach system, which dramatically outperformed the DNC's similar technology in 2016, which, again, it's mostly because of Trump, but for these party apparatuses, it's all about infrastructure for smaller organizations. And candidates like Act Blue have massive success for Democrats, and Win Red has been ish, not as good. I think what Vivek, the legitimate point I think he makes,
choking on my alibi, but it's just the price to pay. Destiny is calling me. Open up the eager eyes. I'm Mr. Bry Guy.
Just costs tremendous amounts of money. So Ronna McDaniel has also, I think, been a bad RNC chairwoman. A, because she hasn't been able to raise money properly. B, she can't pick a lane. Are you either pro-Trump or not? Like, what are we doing here? Are we going to do, we're endorsing a primary process, we're putting on debates which Trump is not showing up to, so in some ways she's oppositional to him, but she's also going to be supportive of him if he eventually becomes the nominee. She's tried to govern in this very, middling direction, and I think that has both led to lack of fundraising, lack of relationship management with Trump, where why don't we have the ground apparatus, where are we not sharing the mailing list and all these other things? I know this can sound boring, but the party itself has not performed at a good level. A lot of that is from Trump, abortion, all this other stuff. But in stuff that they can control, at least from what I understand, even the consultants and all these other people are very dissatisfied with her leadership.
I mean,
so
I have
that's
no
where
idea. It's entirely possible that she's been a terrible leader, but I also would say, I think the biggest problem for them is probably structural. There's been been a drop in grassroots fundraising across the board. Democrats, Republicans, independent organizations. There's been a huge drop in grassroots fundraising. There may be a variety of reasons for that. One is people feeling really stretched. Another is they feel sort of like, nihilistic, like, why would I give my money at this point? There may be a whole host of reasons, but that's kind of been an across-the-board phenomenon. In terms of the big donors, if you're thinking about it, like, if you're a Trump person, you're going to give to Trump. If you're an anti-Trump person, you're going to give to Nikki Haley, or you're going to give to Chris Christie. Why would you give to the RNC if your project is either... Because Trump is the central dividing line in our politics, and certainly in the Republican Party. So if you're a pro-Trump person, he is effectively the party. That's where you're going to invest your resources. And if you're an anti-Trump person, like Ronna McDaniel is effectively his, he supports her and supported her staying in as RNC chair. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to give the money there. And, and then you also have hanging over all of this, like all of the stuff that was happening in the House, and they can't get a speaker and they can't pass any legislation, and they're just sort of like in chaos and aimless and kind of a mess over there as well. So it also doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in the organization of the Republican Party institution itself.
Yeah.
But I really think the key thing, if I had to guess, is just the fact that Trump has subsumed the party. He is a much larger, like, it's no longer about the Republican Party. It's about the person of Donald Trump. And so to me, that's probably the biggest argument.
That's it. Of course, that overlays it. I'm more saying in terms of what she can control. There was also an interesting moment last night on Laura Ingram's show where Ron DeSantis was pressed on Ronna McDaniel, whether she should say, and he was tripping all over himself on this answer. Let's take a listen.
We'll be able to
so
do
you
it
think there should be no change at the RNC?
Well,
no
no,
change. It's working out well.
I called for change after the midterms. I was the only presidential candidate running that called for change. I wasn't running at the time, but my view was we've lost all these elections in a row. Why are we continuing to do it? But here's the thing. As the nominee, I will be responsible for doing it, and I will get the job done regardless of who the chairman of it is. I led the drive in Florida. I'll lead the drive nationally. We can do it. We just need leadership.
Yeah, we need a Republican Party that has a message beyond just, Biden bad.
So anyway, I think what Laura is reflecting there is a lot of activist energy that I see that is against RNC, and the fact that DeSantis kind of has to pick and choose his way through. Interesting to me. Very interesting.
I just, last thing on this, the focus on Ronna McDaniel just to me seems like hope, because they don't want to say it's Trump's fault.
Or abortion.
They don't want to say it's abortion. Like, those things are uncomfortable because then you have to deal with, like, a poor part of your base or a poor part of the party platform, or you got to deal with the guy, Donald Trump, which almost all of them are afraid to do. And so he's, like, a useful scapegoat here. And, you look at the fundraising and you're like, oh, it's your fault. That must be the reason that we're losing. Maybe it's, like, 10th down the list of important factors in these elections, but a lot of it's the dodge to avoid dealing with the real thing.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded, building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.
What's up, insiders? I am back. And that means that it's Tuesday. And if it's some great news to share with all of you across a number of different updates. Let's get into it. First up, today we're going to be talking about an exciting new update to the YouTube product drops feature. Now, product drops allow creators to generate excitement by announcing new products during live shopping streams. In the past, this required creators to connect their Shopify stores or have access to a Google Merchant Center account of their stores. They also had to set up publish dates in advance. But now, we're making some changes to the product drops feature that will make it more flexible for you, creators. First off, any creators who have connected to their stores, so first-party stores, or are participating in the YouTube affiliate program, third-party store, can set up product drops in the live control group on YouTube. Now this means that more creators will be able to use product drops to boost sales and engagement on their live streams. Remember to check out the Help Center article to understand more details about how to set up product drops with or without creators in your Shopify store or Google Merchant Center account. That's what we description. Secondly, we're giving creators more control over the timing of product drops. In the past, creators could only set up drops for a specific time in the future, and should have stuck to the pre-set up schedule. But now, they can also drop products on the fly, right in the middle of a live stream. This gives new creators more flexibility to react to the moment and drive excitement in real time. To use product drops, simply go to the live control room and schedule a live stream. In the live control room, tag the product drop and any other relevant products to the live stream video. Click Create Product Drop next to the product. Your product will be hidden until you're ready to drop it. When you are ready to drop, select the timer. Choose whether you want to do a 1 minute, countdown, or an instant drop. Viewers will see a countdown timer or a placeholder image of a shopping bag as a video overlay until the product is dropped. This will let viewers know the exact moment the product will be available for purchase. We think these changes to the product drops feature will make it an even more valuable tool for creators. So if you're not using product drops yet, I encourage you to give it a try. You might be surprised at how effective they can be at driving sales and engagement with your live streams. If you have any questions about product drops or feedback for us, please leave them in the comments below. Next up, let's talk about creator posts. Creators are going to start to see refreshed creation experience when they make their posts on each platform. What we're doing is rolling out a simplified, updated creation flow that will make it easier for you to share quick updates, mention other creators, and engage with your community. Check it out by either tapping the plus icon in the main menu and navigating to create a post, or by going to your community tab on the channel page. Let us know what you think of the new experience, and leave your feedback in the comments below. Next up, let's talk about the Revenue Analytics tab, because we have added 2 new cards and 1 new insight to the membership section. Now, the first card we're introducing is Total Members. This card allows creators to see their total number of members and events. Within the total members, creators can further analyze 2 different categories. The first category is members with recurring memberships. This gives creators insights into how many members are currently paying for memberships on a recurring basis. Now, moving on to the second category, we have where members come from. This card provides insights into how creators are converting memberships with their content. Creators can see the different sources from which their members are joining. For example, this card might show that a certain number of members joined through a specific video or through a social media promotion. Additionally, within the detailed view of this card, creators will be able to see a members only badge. This badge helps creators easily identify and filter content that is exclusive to their members. This information can be invaluable to creators to understand which channels or content are most effective in driving membership conversions. Lastly, we have a new insight added to the memberships check on members, but not in the detailed existing report. This insight is called Reasons for Membership Cancellation. So when a member cancels their membership, they are asked to provide a reason for their cancellation through an optional survey. This data is displayed in a separate card on the membership check. By understanding the reasons members cancel their memberships, creators can gain valuable insights into potential improvements or just changes to their content or membership offerings. And so there you have it. With the Total Members card, creators can easily see their total member count and breakdown. The Where Members Join From card insights membership conversions, while the Reason for Membership Cancellation insight helps creators understand why members cancel. We hope that these updates will empower you, creators,
Where'd the other one go?
More informed decisions and grow your membership. If you have any questions or feedback, you know where to put them in the comments below. And so, creators, we're coming toward the end of the year, as well as the end of this news flash, and I wanted to take a moment to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I can't tell you how many meetings we sit in where a product manager or a policy manager brings the feedback that you give to this channel into those rooms. And I can't tell you how compelling it still is to hear all of the employees in here talk about what creators feel, what creators want, what creators are telling us they want to see. And that's really what this channel is all about, giving you the insights on it, and listening to what you think, the rationales that we're providing to you. So, consider subscribing. And from the creators of YouTube to YouTube creators, we'll see you next week.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. On this channel I often go over a concept called right to repair, which is the idea that when you purchase something, you own it, therefore you should have the ability to fix it, and that manufacturers should not go out of their way to implement restrictions to make it more difficult for you to choose who it is that services your hardware. If you bought it, you own it. And this has turned into a conversation on this channel over the past few years on the concept of ownership in general, as more and more companies move to ownership as a service models where you don't actually own anything that you bought and paid for. Where I believe this crosses the line is when a product advertises certain features of functionality, but it only gets that functionality by connecting back to the manufacturer. This allows the manufacturer at any point in time to take away those features that you bought and paid for. One instance of this was Arlo cameras earlier in the year. They had certain features and functionality that were available without paying a monthly fee, and then they decided that if you wanted those features that were advertised on the box of the product you bought and paid for, they would not be available unless you paid a fee. A company that went one step further with this was a $400 baby mattress that then turned into a subscription. If you wanted the features and functionality that were available, that were advertised when you purchased the product, if you want those features now, you need to pay us a subscription fee every month to get access to them, even though you already paid $400 for the product. But wait, it gets better. In the world of security cameras, this is now a thing, where you're not able to go into the security camera and change the server that it connects to. And this is the problem that I have with a lot of modern technology, is that for the most part, so much of it is going backwards. I remember 15 years ago, when IP cameras were in their infancy, I would be able to go into my IP camera that I purchased and paid for, and be able to choose which server it sends files to. Whether it was a server that was operated by the company that made the camera, cool, or it was an NVR or DVR, self-hosted and self-managed by me. I had that choice. Many cameras that get sold nowadays advertise lots of features and functionality that require that that device be able to connect to the manufacturer. But what makes it more disgusting is that they don't allow you to choose the server it connects to. So if they decide at some point in time to drop support for that model, you're screwed. You purchase something that has just turned into a brick. Welcome to the world of Vava cameras over here. These are still being sold on Amazon to this day, even though for many people who own them and many people who will purchase them in the future, they are functionally useless. This is a company called Vava. And it's very interesting because when you look at this particular product over here that is 1-star rated as a result of them not working anymore for anybody who's got to log into them, one of the things you'll notice about this particular model of Vava camera is that when you go to the Vava website, if you go through all of their cameras, you can't find this camera anymore. They make no mention of this camera. This camera has been erased from history like Nikolai Yezhov in that lovely picture many of you are probably familiar with, where he's standing next to Stalin. They just pretend it doesn't exist. And the reason I believe they're pretending this camera doesn't exist is because they bricked it. It doesn't work. You can take a look over here. On many forums, people have been reporting that this does not actually work. This person over here says, and I quote from justuseapp.com, I called today and they told me they have no plans to support the application and that the only way we can see what was going on is to pull the SD card and put it into their computer and to see the recorded videos. I told the guy, so if somebody comes and breaks into my house and kills somebody, I will only find out about it after I come home 8 hours later. Also, how can anybody know if the camera battery is still charged or needs to be charged? He tried to offer me a 10 or 20% refund. I told him I declined the offer and will work with others in finding a way to file a class action lawsuit. If anybody on this board of law, please file a lawsuit to all of us who are cheated by this company. On my end, I'm going to make sure this is known all over Facebook and Twitter so that the scam business goes down. And the part that's really sad here is, again, there are many people reporting the same issue on this one. But the part to me that is the saddest of them all when we think about this is that this is a company that actually raised their money from the community. If you take a look over here, it looks like they raised a good amount of money from the general community to create this product over here. This is from Kickstarter.com. It looks like they received $777,000 from average, everyday, ordinary people like you and I to be able to make this product possible. And after they collected that money from their users, they gave their users that believed in them, that believed in their product, a giant middle finger that they did not have to give them in the form of saying, oh yeah, I'm sorry you paid full price for a brick. We'll give you 20 to 30 bucks off buying the movie. And why would you buy it?
Can't respond responsibly.